paraglider is sucked up thousands and thousands of feet into freezing clouds. A Myanmar earthquake shreds the ground, and from space, a red lightning sprite erupts above a storm. These are real events caught on camera that terrify scientists. On May 24th, 2024, Peng Yuzheng was testing some new paragliding gear when a freak updraft called a cloud suck pulled him straight up into the sky. He ended up 27,800 feet above the earth, basically cruising at the altitude of commercial airliners. He had a camera on his glider, so the whole terrifying experience was caught on film. In the video, he's flying through a cloud, his face and body coated in ice. He said he couldn't see where he was going. Without the compass, I wouldn't have known which way I was going. I thought I was flying straight, but in reality, I was spinning, he said. He tried to descend, but the updraft just kept pulling him higher. I wanted to come down quickly, but I just couldn't. I was lifted higher and higher until I was inside the cloud, he continued. At that height, the temperature can drop to minus 40 degrees, and Yuzheng thinks he may have lost consciousness at some point from the lack of oxygen. His accidental ascent nearly broke the world record for highest paragliding flight, a record set in 2007 by German paraglider Eva Wernerska, who was sucked into a thunderstorm and ended up 6 miles above Earth for about 45 minutes. In March 2025, Myanmar was hit by a 7.7 magnitude earthquake, and for the first time ever, a rupture in the Earth's crust was caught on camera. The footage comes from a surveillance camera in Mandalay, the country's second largest city. At first, you could just see a property gate trembling as the quake starts, cracks forming in the concrete. But then on the right-hand side of the frame, the driveway literally slides along the ground. Scientists say this is the first time fault line motion has been recorded like this. California-based earthquake geologist Wendy Bowen told the media, "My jaw hit the floor. We have laboratory models of it, but all of those are far less complex than the actual natural system. So to see it actually happening was mind-blowing." Judith Hubbard, an assistant professor at Cornell, said she keeps rewatching it. "It's really kind of staggering to see a fault slide in real time, especially for someone like me who has spent years studying these things, but always from more remote kinds of data, like offsets after the fact or data recorded by sensors," end quote. The earthquake caused massive damage, even as far away as Bangkok, and tragically, around 3,700 people died. On July 3rd, NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers captured an incredible image of a giant lightning sprite stretching above a thunderstorm over Mexico and the southern US. She snapped the image from the International Space Station. This isn't an artistic rendering or anything. Just wow. As we went over Mexico and the US this morning, I caught this sprite, Ayers wrote on X. She went on to say that sprites are, quote, TLEs, or transient luminous events, that happen above the clouds and are triggered by intense electrical activity and the thunderstorms below. We have a great view of the clouds, so scientists can use these types of pictures to better understand the formation, characteristics, and relationship of TLEs to thunderstorms," end quote. Sprites were first spotted by airline passengers back in the 50s, but they weren't photographed until 1989. And researchers still aren't sure why some storms produce them, while others don't, but seeing them from space like this, though, visually stunning. This is footage of an exploding ant. Yes, this is a real thing. Exploding ants are a group of ants with a very dramatic defense mechanism. Their colonies typically live in trees, and how these things get their name is for their ability to sacrifice themselves for the greater good of the colony when threatened by predators. Kamikaze ants would also be a great name for these things, a nickname anyway. The worker ants of these species have large specialized glands that are full of all these toxic substances, and when the colony is under attack, some worker ants will rupture their own bodies, releasing this sticky toxic stuff that takes out the intruder. It also kills the ant itself. The toxic substance released by these exploding ants is a cocktail of chemicals. It doesn't just trap and scare off predators, it also warns other colony members that there's danger afoot. The sacrifice of a few individuals helps to ensure the survival of the entire colony. Logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. little Star Trek reference for you. I think Spock would like these ants. Back in 1974, a woman named Doris Bither reached out to parapsychologist Barry Taff at UCLA, saying she and her kids were experiencing some seriously strange stuff in their Culver City home. The house was in bad shape, condemned, and Bither was living there illegally with her 4 children. On top of that, Bither had a rough history. She'd struggled with violent partners and substance problems and had a pretty traumatic childhood. But she claimed that invisible entities had attacked her. Taff and his colleague Carrie Gaynor visited the house multiple times over 10 weeks, starting on August 22nd, 1974. They reported what they called poltergeist activity, objects falling off shelves on their own cold spots, bad odors, strange lights. The intensity of these events seemed to fade over time, though. They were also sometimes joined by a friend of Bither's who said she could talk to spirits, plus various people connected to the UCLA lab, but only Taff, Gaynor, and Bither described anything unusual themselves. And they took photos with a Polaroid and a 35mm camera that had become pretty well known in paranormal circles. Taff believed there was a genuine haunting going on here, and these images were just the tip of the iceberg. Ever seen lightning strike an erupting volcano? Well, here it is. Last year in Guatemala, people watching the eruption of Volcano de Fuego got a rare sight. Lightning bolts flashing straight out of the erupting volcano. Volcanic lightning is a real thing. When a volcano erupts, it shoots ash, gas, and rock into the air. Those ash particles collide with each other, and every collision builds up static electricity. The Center for the Study of Active Volcanoes at the University of Hawaii at Hilo explains that as the ash rubs together, atoms shed or pick up electrons, creating zones with positive and negative charges. When the imbalance gets strong enough, those electrons jump through the air to even things out. That jump is what we see as lightning. Scientists even have a name for it: a dirty thunderstorm. I like that. In 2015, something strange started happening off the coast of Alaska near the Kodiak archipelago. People began finding dead whales. A lot of them. By the time researchers got there, they'd counted around 30 carcasses. Most of them fin whales, all stranded or floating nearby. What really threw scientists off was that they all seemed to have died around the same time. First, they suspected a toxic algae bloom, which can sometimes poison marine life, but that theory didn't really hold up. No other species were dying off like this, and the ocean conditions didn't match that. A few months earlier, huge numbers of seabirds had mysteriously died in the same area, though, so researchers figured there could be a connection there, but they never found a clear answer. Some scientists think there were probably even more whales that died but drifted away or were eaten before anyone could find them. This video you're seeing here was not created with AI. In 2023, a video from Fallbrook Houston News started making the rounds, showing this massive sinkhole tearing open a road. At first, there's already a big hole, and then you watch it just keep getting bigger and bigger as the ground gives way. The concrete cracks, the asphalt folds in, chunks of the road just fall out. What makes it even crazier though is people are just standing a few feet away filming the whole thing. You can see the edges shifting where they're standing and nobody's moving. Like water's rushing underneath, washing away the dirt, and the hole keeps widening while everyone just stays there watching. I mean, some people are kind of moving away, but not fast enough. I mean, if I saw this, I'd think Satan was about to pop out of the ground. I would not be standing around like that. This video is not AI either. I gotta say that. But these days, when I see anything even mildly extraordinary online, I gotta take a moment to figure that out. But anyway, no, this was filmed by a guy named Ronald Drago. Looks like a sea serpent, but it's actually a massive sturgeon. I mean, it's basically a sea serpent though. Look at the size of this thing. Sturgeons have been around since the Jurassic period as well, and they haven't changed much since then. Some of them can reach lengths of over 20 feet and weigh more than 1,000 pounds, which puts them in the same size range as a great white shark. They're bottom feeders, mostly eating small fish and crustaceans, and they're not dangerous on purpose, but because of their size, they can be. There have been real cases of sturgeons leaping out of the water and hitting people on boats. Let's talk about another creature, smaller, but possibly stranger, the hairy frog found in Central African forests. I had no idea these things existed, and They have to be the creepiest frog species I've ever heard of. I mean, look at this thing. Hairy frogs, also known as horror frogs or wolverine frogs, are really cool, but not your typical cute kind of frog. These things have a very bizarre defense mechanism, for a frog anyway, but I'll get to that in a minute. So these frogs get their name because they have what looks like hair on the sides of their bodies and thighs. It isn't actually hair though, it just has the appearance of it. It's actually called dermal papillae, which contains blood vessels. So the hair-looking stuff is thought to help them breathe better. So how do they get the Wolverine nickname? Well, this is pretty cool. So these frogs have the ability to break their own bones. So when they're threatened, they can force the bones in their toes through the skin, essentially creating claws like Wolverine. Pretty wild. With all that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.